Okay, going live. And we're going to have a shorter episode of Becoming today, but this is episode 9, and it is called Ask and You Shall Receive. And I hope the audio is okay. This journey of going live on YouTube has been a journey. I've always been used to being on Instagram Live, but there's just been, all of these glitches with technology, which is fine, and we're here. So I really hope that, yeah, I really hope that the audio is okay because there's been static. But yeah, stepping into that topic of ask and you shall receive. And I've really been reflecting on this a lot, just in terms of, we have that inner compass. Each and every one of us has that inner compass and connection to the divine. And we will be shown when we are in situations that are going to be beneficial for us or not. You're shown when you're supposed to be doing something or be in something and when you're not. And a lot of the time, we could say like intuition, higher self, that soul guidance, talking to God in many different ways. But when you put something in your heart and out there into the ethers to God, source divine, what you ask for will be answered. And sometimes in unexpected ways. That's the thing. Ask and you shall receive. You might not get all of these things that you want in your world. Like if you're asking, "Oh, I want the perfect career. I want the perfect partner. I want da 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 da," like the list of things. You might not get all of that in the way that you anticipated, but you will get what you asked for. When I think of this, something that's just really stuck in my mind is there was a point in time being in a non-healthy relationship. It was toxic, and I will take my part in that as well, but really asking to be shown, what were the next steps, what was the path moving forward. And God, source divine, we could say, works almost instantaneously and hello and in miraculous ways. So almost instantaneously, I was put in situations of meeting individuals that were kind, that were gentle, that were so open, and the only word I can think of is kind, complete kind, compassion, loving humans, which seemed quite different from what I was experiencing previously in that toxic relationship. Once again, I'll take ownership for that. So you will be given examples of what you've been asking for in different ways. And once again, the ask and you shall receive might not always come in the way that you want or the way that you would have anticipated it coming, because sometimes you could have these ideas in your mind or these dreams or these visions, and it's not to say that there's anything quote unquote wrong with them. It's not to say that they might not be beneficial to you, but at the same time, what if there's something else that is there for you beyond those visions and beyond those dreams? Hola. I find something that's really stuck with me is you can have the dream, you can have the visions, you can have the desires, but then really allowing yourself to be open to let the divine expand that, to let God, source, divine expand that for you. Because humans, we we have the capacity to feel, we have the capacity to dream, but we also limit things. I feel like we speak about this a lot. Like we do limit things with previous experiences, right? For example, using the example of a relationship, maybe growing up if you were shown that to be in a loving relationship or to be of value or of worth, you've had to prove yourself, right? There could have been situations throughout your whole life where you alone never were quote unquote good enough, which is not true. Could we just throw that out right away? That's not true. We like intrinsically you as who you are have been good enough. You are a child of the divine. You're good enough. However, you could have had experiences growing up that have shown you that if you act a certain way, then you'll be good enough. Then you'll be loved. If you do specific things, then you'll be good enough and then you'll be loved and then you'll be worthy and on and on and on and on. All of these stories. And so then you go through your life thinking that or believing that. And there's that tendency where we could say like people pleasing, right? Where you just overextending and doing so much. And the underlying drive of that is to be loved, is to be seen, is to be valued because of all of that programming or conditioning that you might have experienced growing up, right? Especially if you've had, growing up where there's been really high standards or expectations for you, right? Where you've had to, like, the bar is here, but the expectations for you have been there. And sometimes it can be projected from other people. Sometimes that could have been something that was expected of you by parents, people in power over you. Hi. And then sometimes these could be even self-imposed expectations that you've put on yourself of once again feeding that narrative or feeding those stories that you must do X, Y, and Z to be loved. You must do X, Y, and Z to be of value and to be of worth. But that might not actually be the core truth of who you are or who any of us are. But that's when it gets tricky when we've got all of that conditioning and all of those stories. Hello. Hello. And so to kind of go back into the ask and you shall receive. When you have those moments of perhaps like the word that's coming through is clarity, but perhaps you could be in a state of confusion when you're asking to be shown pathways forward or where you're asking, give me a sign. Oh, that's a good one. Give me a sign. But sometimes it's like you might get multiple signs. Thank you, Timothy. You might get multiple signs. And then it's on you, it's on us if we choose to listen to the signs. But when you put out an SOS to God, source divine, when you say you need help, where you're asking for clarity, guidance, directions, it will be answered. It will be answered. And one thing to say about that, though, it might not be answered in the way that you would expect, in the way that you would want, in the way that you were really hoping the answer would be. How often have you put a petition to God, Source Divine, asking for something, but hoping you're going to get a specific answer? Or even out in the world, this could be asking someone something, needing something from someone, wanting something from someone, hoping that they're going to tell you exactly what you want to hear. Raise your hand. Ah! And does that happen though? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. And so it's really letting go of that attachment to any preconceived ideas that you might have about what answers are going to be, letting go of that attachment to what you need, perhaps what you need that answer to be. Because how truthful are we allowing ourselves to be? How vulnerable are we allowing ourselves to be? Hello. How open are we allowing ourselves to receive divine guidance if we're attached to the answer needing to be a specific way, if we're wanting to hear what we think we need to hear, if we're so attached to, needing to hear what we need to hear, it completely shuts out and blocks out what's actually meant to come through. That insight that's meant to be received. Because if there's these points where you're attached to needing to have an answer be a specific way, let's say you've been in patterns and cycles in your life. Perhaps these patterns and cycles in your life have been repeating because of the attachment to specific outcomes. That, like, attachment, oh, and can I say, ooh, letting go of attachment is like not always the easiest thing. You could even be attached to things you don't even know you're attached to until you're faced with it. So it's really being open. Hola! It's really being open to surrendering, which is not a weakness. Surrendering is not a weakness. Surrendering is allowing. And I'm just seeing in the comments, hola. The Holy Spirit is the Wi Fi. Our body is the antenna that receives the Wi Fi signal. It's so true. It's so true. We have that internal compass or that gauge. Like that's the other thing too that we spoke about in the very beginning. It's like you know when you're in situations that are beneficial to you or not. And your body speaks to you. It's like you can feel it, you can sense it, you can know it. And once again, that is being tuned into that divine guidance, soul, God, whatever you want to call it. It's being tuned into that. And sometimes it can be challenging because we're going into that attachment. You could be attached to specific things, you could be attached to specific outcomes. But once again, like if that GPS within you is going off, you know where you're supposed to be and where you're not supposed to be. And then once again, though, we have that free will. We can choose where we stay, where we go. Like we actually get to choose. We can listen or not. But it's really important to even recognize that we have that within us. And what a gift that is. What a gift it is to be able to completely be connected into this infinite wisdom that is not going to steer you wrong. And it's really important to stress that because sometimes, yeah, ask and you shall receive, and you will get that answer that you've been seeking. The answer might not always be necessarily what you want it to be, especially if there's attachment, right? But when you're talking to God, let's even just strip it all away. Talking to God, talking to the divine, it's not intended to steer you into harm's way. Sometimes it can be uncomfortable. Sometimes it could feel painful with some of the guidance or the answers that you're receiving, but it's not intended to harm. And it's really, really important to remember that, even though there could be momentary pain. There could be. Like we're not going to sugarcoat anything. There could be temporary pain in that moment, but in that higher vision of the divine plan for your life, it's temporary pain. It's momentary pain for long-term joy, fulfillment. Oh, but we have to be able to let go of the attachment. Yeah, and it could take a few years to get your question answered. That's very true. I do always joke that when you ask, it can be instantaneous, but once again, that's not always. and and experience. It could take years to get that final answer. You could be asking and you could be seeking, and there might be, clues that come in instantaneously, but like the fullness of the answer might not always be given. Because that's the whole thing too. You will get in some cases breadcrumbs, but it's like the breadcrumbs are leading you to the answer. So it's like the breadcrumbs are a glimpse, here's some of it. And then you go explore. And then here's the other crumb, and here's some of it. And then you explore. But you will always be given the answer. But sometimes you're going through lessons that answer your question. Absolutely. Sorry, I need to finish reading that answer your questions on a deep insight level. That is why it takes time, because think of it this way as well. And I know we're not alone in this journey. There are so many lessons that we go through. And once again, like the lessons can be exciting and just like so enlightening, and sometimes the lessons can bring heartache and hardship. Welcome to life. But at the same time, like I've always experienced, and maybe this is similar for you. I know I'm not alone in it. Some of the greatest heartaches that I've ever gone through in my life, or challenges, or just like traumatic situations, tragic situations, have just brought me closer to God, Source Divine, brought me closer to that essence, like that divine essence inside, and just brought me so much more clarity. And yeah, did it hurt in the moment? Absolutely. But it just seems like in life, so many of us go through tragic situations, but they're catalysts. Sometimes they're catalysts to make you choose something differently. Sometimes they're catalysts to have you look in the mirror at yourself, at who you are, how you're living. Sometimes they're catalysts to look outside of a bubble if you've been living in a bubble, and look out in the world. So often it's like these markers. I just had a call on, what day was it? On Saturday, so a couple days ago, with a group of women that I work with in Path of the Heart, and we were talking about rebirth. And something that came up was to look at this timeline of life and to see these points where rebirth was occurring, and like from a very young age, like from the beginning of life to where they were now. And it was so fascinating because not all of those moments were tragedy. There's exciting situations that could be catalysts for rebirth, but more often than not, it was just these little markers in time, or these points in life where something happened that was, a shaking to awaken. And then that created the opening for the rebirth. And that can even happen for us if there are these states of confusion or clarity. And sometimes you might be at a breaking point. You might be in a state of despair. You don't know what else to do. You don't even know where else to turn to. And you put out, once again, like that SOS to God, like the petition to God, Source Divine, of help, SOS, help. I need a sign. I need an answer. I need support. And then it will come through. Once again, as Joshua mentioned, it could take years for the answers to come, and sometimes it can be instantaneous. What? Oh, springtime is symbolic of rebirth, yes, and resurrection. So sometimes it can be instantaneous. And water, and think of that, like we're seeing all of this stuff about the water. um what seeds are we watering in our lives? Are we continuing to water, negative thought forms, toxic relationships, toxic, behaviors within ourselves? Are we continuing to water that? Because what you water will grow. What you don't water is not going to grow. What you what you don't water, there's going to be a drought. It's going to die. But what you're watering is going to grow. And then there's even that expression, like in many different ways, like the grass is greener on the other side, or, like that expression, but grass is greener where you water it. So, what are you doing to support yourself? Where are you putting your attention? Where are you putting your heart? Where are you putting your devotion as well? And something, even though we might get answers instantaneously, like ask and you shall receive. I gave that example of being in a very unhealthy relationship, and once again taking my part in that. Like I definitely have played a part in that, but asking for pathways forward of like, what does that look like? And then instantly meeting many individuals that were kind and loving and friendly, and it just took these blinders off of my eyes of, oh wow, okay, like this is what, wow, like blown away by the kindness of strangers too. It's like you're not angry. Obviously, we're strangers. There's no history, there's no past, but there was just like so much kindness and like multiple people over and over and over. And then it was like, oh, okay, so now this is my remembrance of what healthy communication is like, what healthy encounters are like. Like this is my remembrance. And that might not be the full answer. That might not be go in the direction of these people, but it's more of God will show you. Can we say? Yeah, and it can be hard not to fire back in a toxic relationship. Well, and that's the whole thing. You will be shown, it's like if you were steeping in situations that are not healthy, and you ask, you will be shown the opposite of that. It doesn't necessarily mean like go into the arms of this other person. It could, it could, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. It's like here's like the healthy. Here's healthy potential. This is like what's not been there. But that's like even where we were talking about the breadcrumbs. Like that's the breadcrumbs, and there is more that will reveal itself. Could we also be open to the fact that, yeah, you might not get all of your answers today. You might not get all of the answers in that moment. You will get the insights, but that's the beauty of God as well, and connecting to God. And we'll just say God, source divine. Whatever that is for you, that's the beauty of opening up to God, surrendering that everything to that higher power, because there is that divine timing. And there is a sometimes the word that's coming through is there's like that gentleness where it comes through, and maybe in the moment and the space and place that you're in right now, I'm hearing you want the truth, you can't handle the truth. Like, but that's not the case. But maybe in that moment, like the fullness of the answer can't be fully received and integrated. It's like you get some of it, and then you go through the learning and the lesson, and maybe the healing through that, and then more will be revealed. Yes. Oh, we have to be able to reflect. Sorry, I'm just going to read that question or that comment, Joshua. What's worse is a person who refuses to reflect on themselves or take responsibility. Yeah, because this is the whole thing. We're we just to like put this in a perspective, in the eyes of God, we are all loved. So even let's say in situations like where one, whatever, we'll go into that dynamic of a toxic relationship. It's like it's two people in the relationship, right? There's two people that are actively being in that toxicity. It's not just one person. And then even in those situations, God loves both of the people. God loves all of the people that are in that situation. Like God does not have favors either for one person. Hello. God does not have favors for one, like one is better than the other. It's not like that, and it's really important to remember that. But yeah, it can be tricky when, you've got people in your life, in your world that don't want to reflect, that don't want to take accountability, that don't want to look at their part either. And sometimes I've looked at that, and truthfully, like I'll admit there's been times where I've played a victim in my life, in my world, and I couldn't see past, perhaps pain that was happening or other people's actions, and just like, pointing the finger. And I've been there, I know. But then when you step outside of situations and you look, like, and it's not to excuse other people's behaviors, but yeah, when you choose to actually look in the mirror, you might see, oh, wow, like previously in that experience, I was really reactive. Oh, like you just, and it's not to put yourself down or anything, but you just look honestly and clearly at yourself. Yeah, I've often thought with that, and to have the distance. However, I've often thought sometimes it could be really uncomfortable for people to go inward. Maybe there's a lot of shame or guilt. And once again, this is not to excuse, um, you know, potentially harmful behaviors and ways of being, but maybe they can't sit with themselves. Maybe they're uncomfortable with who they are. Maybe they don't like who they are as a person. So to go in and introspect could be really uncomfortable. And yeah, having compassion for them, Joshua, as you mentioned, it's like, having distance, loving them from a distance, absolutely. But I do have that perspective of compassion towards folks that might not be able to look in the mirror, that might not choose to do that inner reflection, because that's not easy work. Go like choosing to look at yourself, to look in the mirror, to look where you might be playing a part in toxic situations, where you might not be the kindest, most loving person. That's not always comfortable. But what you will be shown is truths, and sometimes hard truths. But then that, once again, like that's how we learn and that's how we grow. Yeah, and if there's an uncomfortability with self, right? If you're feeling uncomfortable with who you are, you're not necessarily liking yourself or valuing yourself, or you've got all these stories from life's experiences that have told you. Feels like we're going for full circle from the very beginning of this discussion, but you've had those stories of life where you've been told you're not good enough, where you're told, you need to be this certain way and you're not enough, and blah 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 blah, all those stories. It just piles up, and then you might believe it, right? You might be walking around in the world believing that. So to go within and to look at yourself, if you've been told you're a piece of crap your whole life, or been shown through different, experiences in life, it's really hard to go within. And you might not actually see, yeah, that inner spark, that divine spark, that your inner magic. You might not see that you are loved regardless of who you are, what you've done in the eyes of God, Source Divine. Like you might not know that. And then you don't choose to go within or take accountability or responsibility, and then just create these cycles of self destruction and harm out in your outer world. But I find, it's not always easy to do. But for me, and who I am, and I understand, like there's us out there that choose to do the inner work and the self-reflection, like to all ends. And then there's others, and it's not to judge. They just it might not be top of mind or avoided. right? And it's just you get it or you don't. But once again, it's not always going to be easy. And I find yeah, I've just really enjoyed being able to connect with other folks out there in the world that have that desire. And it's not to fix anything. It's just that desire to go within, that desire to grow and become the best version of themselves, but not from a defeated way, not from a, yeah, like not from a broken, you need to fix yourself sort of way, like not viewing yourself as broken. We're not broken. And just that desire to be kinder, be more loving, be the light in the world. And ultimately, we all have that inner light. We all have that within us. It's whether or not we choose to let that light shine, or whether we choose to let life's painful experiences cast a shadow over us, or, to bring us down and forget that that's within us. But even going back to that ask and you shall receive, if you've been feeling like you're in a fog, if you've been feeling like, there's a heaviness around you, if you've been questioning your value, your worth, like who you are as a soul, if you've been questioning any of that or feeling conflicted with any of that, go to God. We'll say God, source divine, because I just understand that word triggers people. So we're going to be open. I use God, okay? And I used to get triggered by God. That's why I'm so hypersensitive of God, source divine. However, go straight to God and say, show me the truth of who I am on this planet. Show me the truth of who I am in your image. Show me the truth of who I am as a divine soul. Show me who I am in your eyes, and you will be shown. And through that, it's like you can ask and you can receive, but let's even like do a little game, so to speak. We have to be open to receive too, because it's like ask and you shall receive. Okay, and you will. But what if you're like this? What if you're completely closed off to receiving the information? So ask, putting out that call, that SOS, and then being open to receive. Even if you're closed off like with like a little bit, we have to be open to receive. Yeah, and our inner GPS system, it is the lighthouse. It is the lighthouse. You're going to be drawn to people, places, situations that support you, or those people, places, situations that support you are going to be drawn to you. Like I'm not joking when I gave that example of being in a toxic relationship, and once again, I know I played a part in it. I'm not it's not the blame game, but I'm just giving an analogy of that, and it's perfect with the lighthouse. Being in that relationship and then instantaneously like putting out that call, same day, same freaking day, a person, and this happened like multiple people in that day and following days, coming with kindness, like just it blew me away. It blew me away. It can happen. And being open to receive, and yes, being open to receive prayer. Prayer, like intercession, I believe it is called, is powerful. To have other people praying for you and being open to to receiving that love of other people that really want the best for you, and being open through that love of the people that want the best for you, receiving that from God, source divine. So it's being open, and it could start with something so simple. So let's even do this together. So you can place your hands on your chest and on your heart, and even like focusing, bringing that attention and that focus into the chest space and into the heart space. And you can say this out loud with me, or you can say it silently within the heart. So either repeating out loud or saying silently in the heart, feeling in the heart, speaking from the heart as well. I am open to receive what God is bringing to me. Oh, we're just going to leave it at that. I am open to receive what God is bringing to me. I am open to receive what God is showing me. I am open to receive where God is guiding me. And even breathing in through the heart and out through the heart. And that's the first step. That didn't take a lot of time. I'm open to, you could even say, I'm open to receive. I always like to add, for my greatest and highest good, and sometimes for your greatest and highest good, there could be challenges that come up. But those are the lessons. It's like the lessons and the blessings. So being open to receive is the first step. And yes, tuning in, like taking those moments. I do this all the time and I speak about it all the time. You could even do research. Heart Math Institute. They focus on heart connection and heart breathing, taking those moments to go and stop and pause within the heart. This is not woo woo. This is science. So just like your body, when you take that moment to stop and pause and to tune in and to go within the heart, it actually allows your nervous system to come into a state of peace. It gets you out of the mind. The word that they use is coherence. Mind, heart coherence, brain, heart coherence. It brings you into a state of coherence. When you're in a state of coherence, you're in a state where there's peace, love, joy. It's just, ugh. And it doesn't take a long time. You could just put your hands on your chest and your heart. Reading books called Present Centered Life and Mastering the Presence. Yes, presence, another key word. It brings you into the present moment. So thank you for sharing those books, Present Centered Life and Mastering the Presence. I'm such an advocate for the book The Presence Process by Michael Brown. I absolutely cannot speak enough about that book. It's really shifted a lot. I'll even say life changing. It shifted a lot of things in my world. I had it for like 7 years and I did not actually read it until February of 2024, and it shifted so much. So yeah, books that bring you into that presence is huge. Oh, Unbroken Communion is another book. Thank you, Joshua. So, really giving ourselves that space to stop and pause and to tune in and just to know that your prayers do not go unanswered. Your petitions to God, your SOS calls do not go unanswered. However, we do have to be open to receive. So just remember, if things are challenging, just putting your hands on your chest, your heart, you don't even have to physically do it. Like these are just some suggestions. You could stop and pause and bring your focus into the chest and into the heart space and do a couple breaths, just breathing in through the heart and out through the heart and giving yourself that time. And once again, just as that reminder of that intentionality to feel within the heart, I am open to receive what God is showing me. I'm open to receive where God is guiding me. I'm open to receive what God is here for me in this moment, or what God is asking. Because you could be asking, mhm, you could be asking, and perhaps God's source divine is asking something of you. So I'm open to receive what God is asking of me in this now moment. Oh, and for the presence process, it is The Presence Process by Michael Brown. Oh, and just a correction for that book. It's Unbroken Union. Thank you, Joshua. And our Becoming series today is a little bit shorter. I have a beautiful walk with someone within my community to have a heartfelt conversation. So I do have to wrap up early. But we will be back next Monday. I hope the sound, I finally figured out a microphone. Like I've had this microphone, it's just the setting it up. So I hope the sound has been wonderful. I'm wishing everybody a wonderful, magical, amazing week ahead. And we will see you, yeah, next Monday, 9 a.m. Pacific time for Becoming. Lots of love to you. God bless. Lovely to see you.